All right, finishing up the second half of the periodization and programming slide. We left off with progressions and how we can progress through sets, reps, tempos, movements, etc. on this side. When we look at our tempos, one thing is that I am looking for is, do you have a tempo for each movement? It doesn't necessarily have to be something like a 3 eccentric, a 1 iso, and then a 0 concentric, or an explosive and an X concentric. If it's one that you don't necessarily have a tempo, but you just want to be like controlled through it, you can write down slow. If you want it to be explosive, like you can't really tempo an Olympic weightlift or a box jump, it would make no sense to tempo that. You can just write EXP for explosive. So I'm looking for those different tempos for each movement. Um, Within those tempos, does it make sense? So, like, does it make sense for the movement? Like I said, I would not put a tempo aside from explosive for an Olympic movement or a plyometric movement, but making sure that I put that explosive in there. Does it make sense based off the training period? When we're in that preseason phase, so we're right before the season starts, I'm not going to do a 5-second eccentric with a 2-second isometric. All right. And then does it make sense towards your goals? Design slash layout. Is it something that's easy to follow? I'm going to provide a template for you so that you can use that. You don't have to create your own template or anything like that. So if you follow the design, that layout that I provide, it is going to be easy to follow. And then also a great way of knowing, does your design make sense? Can you explain it to somebody? Can somebody look at it and it makes sense to them for the most part? But really going back to, can you explain it? That's very, very important. So here's an example of a program that I wrote for myself. This was phase 4, so this is going to be weeks 13 through 16 in regards to where I'm at with this program. You'll notice that there's 4 different columns that we see here. Each one of these columns represents a day. So we're looking at day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And the way that I broke it down was I had day 1 was a lower body day that would be performed on Monday. Day 2 was an upper body day performed on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I would have a little bit of a break or an active recovery. Day 3 was another lower body day that was performed on Thursday. And day 4 was my second upper body day performed on Friday. So if we take day 3, so my second lower body day here in particular, what we see here is kind of the breakdown of at least half of that day. I'll always begin each day, and this is more of a preference thing. If you don't really want that, don't worry about it. But I always perform one set of core of 4 different movements for each one of my days. This just happens to be the day 3 or the Thursday ones. So you see right here, I have my 4 core movements. I'm performing one set of each. So within that set, I'm doing 5 by 3 seconds of each leg with my forearm with hip extension. I'm doing 10-second holds on each leg one time with my alternating bird dog iso. My dragonflies, I'm doing 7 3-second holds. And then my dead bugs with 2 legs, I'm doing 4 of them. And I'm just doing that one time. That's for week 1. So you see right here, this is a week 1 column. Week 2, I'm going to up the reps, so I'm going to up that a little bit. That's how I progress. I'm now doing 6 instead of 5, 15 instead of 10, and so on. Week 3 and week 4. So that week is going to apply to everything beneath it as well. So if I'm doing day 3, week 1, that's going to be everything in this column for every movement. Once I move on to week 2, I'm going to be looking at everything in this column. And you're going to see how it progresses each week, whether it be through rep or through weight, whether it be through reps or so on. I'm always going to write it in. You don't necessarily need to write in your weights. This is my starting weight right here. And then I'll just write in my weights the rest of the weeks to come. So I'll have like 135 up to 155. Maybe I'll start on 145, 155, 65, and 175, and so on. And that's how I increase, is through my intensity. For my 2-way rotational box jumps, we don't necessarily have to progress that because it is something that I'm just trying to be as explosive as possible. and I want to just make those movements as good as I can without fatiguing, so it's very low in regards to the reps that I'm performing two each way. Then I move down into my trap bar and so on, so we'll actually break it down here. So now I have that week one, I have my week two. Each one of these blocks is going to be performed in a row. So I'm going to do my hang snatch and my two-way rotational jumps. I'm going to alternate. So I'll do a set of snatch pulls or high pulls, followed by some jumps, followed by more high pulls, followed by jumps, high pulls, and jumps. Then I move on to, after I complete the 3 sets there, I move on to my B block. So in this block, I'm looking at my trap bar deadlift. I'm going to pair that with my tall kneeling banded lifts, as well as my isometric dorsiflexion hold. So I'm going to perform in this way. APRE is not something we talked about, but it is a method that I use myself. If you're interested in that, you can ask me via Zoom chat or email. But I have 2 warm-up sets built into my block here. But I'm still going to use those warm-up sets to alternate between my different things. So I'm going to do a warm-up set of 12 at 210 pounds with my trap bar deadlift. Then I'm going to perform 5 each way tall kneeling banded lifts. And then I'm going to do 10-second holds with my isometric dorsiflexion hold. So from there, then I'm going to go up to 290. I'm going to go back to my lifts, my holds. Then I'm in my working sets of heavier weights for APRE. The blanks here is going to basically say I have an open set and as many reps as I can get with no more than 12 because I'm looking at APRE 10. And that open set, I'm going to write in the reps I've done, and then that's going to feed into what my next number is. Now that's a little more advanced. If you don't really understand that, don't worry. I'm not looking for anything like that. And then your banded lifts and your dorsiflexions, you just check those off each time you do so. Those are 2 that we're not necessarily going to need to progress throughout the time, especially with a band. You can just use the same band, and the dorsiflexion hold, you're not going to really increase aside from maybe time spent there as you see this. Other things to note, you have your tempo column right here. So at the tempo, my snatch high pull, I want that to be explosive, so I just wrote in EXP. For my jumps, I want to be explosive, but I want to really focus on sticking the landing. So I'll see a stick for that tempo. My trap bar deadlifts, I'm looking to go down 2, tap the weight, and go up fast. So down 2, tap and up fast, so a 2OX, 2-second eccentric, 0 isometric, and explosive concentric. My banded lifts, I just want to be slow and controlled, so I write in slow, no real tempo for that. And then any kind of hold, whether it be a plank, a dorsiflexion, anything like that, you're just going to put down hold. And then you can see that determine how long you're holding for from there on out. So I would like to see some kind of tempo written in there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be traditional like we see with the trap bar. It can be something in which you're just giving advice as to how you want it to be performed otherwise. And then last thing I want to touch on week 4, I usually reserve week 4 as a deload week. So we're going to decrease our intensity, we're going to decrease our volume. That way we can just kind of maintain the form that we've developed and the habits and movements that we've developed with the heavier weights up to that point. But we're just going to be doing it a lot lighter, a lot faster. Notice here we're not doing a tempo, we're just doing light and fast. Here we still do want a tempo with a slow movement so that we're still controlled and not really putting ourselves in a vulnerable position. But then we do see the volume here with the holds decrease as well to 10 seconds. So that's all we have for the periodization and programming. I'll send a follow-up video as well for the template breakdown as well as the rubric breakdown for your 12-week programs. So let me know if you have any questions.